Okay, all right. Well, thank you all for joining us. My name is Lindsay Broom, and I'm a staff analyst here at the Housing Department. Today, you are joining us for a pre-application conference for our 2025 Public Services HOPWA NOFA that we released on Friday, February 14th. So today, we will be going through some information about the NOFA, and I also have our public services folks here. So why don't I go ahead and let them introduce themselves as well. Melody, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Melody Barr, for those who don't know me, and I am the Assistant Director over Public Services.
And Jared.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jared Briggs. I'm the Division Manager here in Public Services at Housing and Community Development.
Thank you, guys. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started and get through all our material. All right, this kind of just gives an overview of what we're going to be discussing today. We'll talk about the NOFA, what's inside of it, the funding source, things like that. Then we have my colleague Stefan is going to discuss complaints and appeals. And then I will go through the process of how to get to the NOFA, how to submit it, and we'll do a Q&A. All right, so
I'm trying to get up.
Okay, all right. I saw you joined and then I didn't see you, so all right.
Just a reminder to make sure your mic is muted. Thanks. So the funding source here is the Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, HOPWA. So this is federal funding. And for this particular NOFA, we have approximately $11 million. Just to be aware, this is HUD funding and thus requires compliance with federal rules, and it's subject to annual allocations by the federal government. All right, I'll talk about the schedule. Like I said, the NOFA was issued on February 14th. Today, we're having our pre-application conference. If you have any questions regarding the NOFA or need clarification on anything within the NOFA, please submit those questions by March 3rd. And then we will respond via letter of clarification, which will be posted on our website. And I will discuss that a little bit later in the presentation about the website and where to find that information. And then the application itself is due on March 17th at 5 p.m. Via our online portal, which I'll also discuss later in the presentation. All right, so I'm going to hand it off to Jared to discuss the program priorities and the HOPWA, the NOFA overview.
Thank you, Lindsay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us. So to go over the NOFA, I hope everyone has found it on the website. If not, Lindsay will go over that. But if you have already downloaded it, please have it open because it'll be useful as we go through some of these points. So again, as a reminder, this is HOPWA funding, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. The purpose of the funding is to serve persons living with HIV/AIDS and that are also meet the eligibility criteria of being low to moderate income, 80% AMI or less. Unless some of our programs we do restrict to 50% AMI. We also have a copy of our HOPWA manual is available if you're not familiar with that. You can also reach out, and that's available on our website, or you can reach out to the NOFA team, and we can provide that to share with everyone. Excuse me. The funds will be provided on a reimbursement basis. So for anyone that is not familiar, that pretty much you have to have the funding to pay for your cost up front, and then the city will review your reimbursement request and then reimburse eligible expenses that have been approved. We anticipate the term of these agreements will be for 12 months. That will be the initial term. We'll have the option to renew potentially up to an additional 12 months for this NOFA. The next slide. So the eligible activities that this NOFA will cover: TBRA, tenant-based rental assistance, short-term rental mortgage, and utility assistance, so STRIMU. It's also including supportive services and PHP, and operating costs for community residences, as well as sponsor administration, which is capped at no more than 7% of the total allocation of HOPWA funds for the project. Before we move on from that, Melody, I just wanted to say, is there anything you would like to add to the eligible activities for this round?
I mean, this is similar to our previous rounds of application.
Okay. And if you have any questions, any of the participants, if you have questions about the eligible activities, we'll get to that in the Q&A. We can go over if you're not familiar. You know, again, we go into a little bit more detail in the NOFA document. And then, of course, there's always HUD and all the HOPWA material that's available on HUD Exchange if perhaps this is your first time and you're not familiar with HOPWA funding.
I would say too that if you're like me, sometimes you'll forget the question. You're welcome to write it in chat, and then we'll get to it during the Q&A portion.
All right, next slide, please. So threshold items. Some of this I touched on. This is quite an extensive list, but these are the items that you're going to have and submit in order to get past the initial review and actually go to the full evaluation. If your project is missing this information, we won't be able to move forward. It's highly likely that, you know, if we have some that are missing, that there will be probably a brief cure period offered if perhaps you forget to upload or forget to include one of these required items. But to briefly go through them, the applicant, none of you can be debarred at the city, state, or federal level. So the city of Houston does actually have a debarment system. Right now, I don't believe anyone is listed on it, but we do have to check that. The state of Texas has debarment. I believe there's only 2 agencies listed on that. And then the federal government has debarment. So you have to have an active SAM, system for award management account. And we have to be able to check you in that system and verify that there is no debarment or suspension for the organization that's applying. Again, all applicants, you have to serve persons living with HIV and under 80% of area median income, AMI. Again, we talked about it briefly that 50% AMI for TBRA and community residences. Again, the community residences for operating costs of those facilities. Your project needs to be consistent with the consolidated plan with our HOPWA needs that we have posted. The consolidated plan is available on our website. If you want to find out more information about that. Certificate of account status from the Texas Comptroller. Your nonprofit, your agency should have one of those, and you'll need to include that in your submission. You also have to be a valid 501c3, have your tax exempt status, and provide that with the IRS. You do have to operate and serve persons within the City of Houston EMSA. So that's the expanded metropolitan statistical area. That's a 9-county region, pretty much centered on the City of Houston, Harris County, and then all of the surrounding counties around Harris County. So if you're not sure, you're welcome to submit a question and ask in the Q&A, or you can submit it via email if you need your the location of your agency or address verified. So you have to provide evidence of site control for duration of the agreement. So wherever the services are being provided, we need to have confirmation that you actually have, you know, site control, a lease, or you own that building, so that we know that you are going to be able to provide the proposed services there. And that could be, you know, if you have for operations, could be supportive services, wherever that location is. We do have to have confirmation and proof before we can proceed. We do ask that the funding request be at minimum the floor of 100,000 or greater. We have not put a cap on it at this time, but we do, again, the total amount available across all categories is $11 million. Provide evidence of uncommitted capital to support 3 months of operations for the proposed project. And then that last bullet point goes with this. You have to have your board of directors provide certification with signatures of the availability of that 3-month cash flow that will support the proposed project's operations based on the budget that you provide. So this goes back to that reimbursement bullet. So we have to have proof that you have a minimum of 3 months of cash flow that can float this program with your own funds while you're awaiting reimbursement from the city of Houston. If you're not able to provide that, then again, you won't be able to move past threshold into the full evaluation period. Next slide, please. So the scoring criteria, it's 100 points maximum. And so the NOFA goes into more detail on this, but just a quick breakdown. You know, you've got the categories listed, your organizational management to tell us how your organization is set up, and the project, like your org chart, the targeted services, what are you going to do? You know, who are you targeting with this? Is it a particular subpopulation that meets that eligibility criteria? Your activity need and justification. You know, why do we need, what is the purpose of this program? Who are you serving? What unmet need are you addressing, or are you sustaining if it's, you know, an existing project? Are you keeping people housed? Are you providing a service that is, you know, you see as unmet, or that, you know, maybe there's other agencies, but they don't serve that particular geographic area? Cost reasonableness, we have to look at, you know, what you're proposing and the cost, the salaries of staff, the, you know, proposed operations, rents, all that has to be evaluated for reasonableness. Is it, you know, within like fair market rent? Are the salaries reasonable for the task being done? Yeah, and other criteria for any supplies. Does that make sense? You know, budget effectiveness, you know, that's also going to be where we look at the actual budget document and compare that to everything else that's provided. Is it consistent? Do the line items match the org chart? Do the costs match your what you say you need? You know, we're looking for consistency. Does the budget balance with your annual amount that you say it costs to run this proposed project? Are there any leverage funding or other sources of funding going into it? So that's where we're going to go into a lot of detail into that budget, and again, line by line. So the budget template that's provided is something that you can build off of. It does have some formulas in there in the Excel file. So please, when you're entering data, be mindful of if it's a cell that has a formula tied to it, that you don't overwrite that. And if so, you know, make sure you check all your calculations before submitting. Data-driven evaluation. So part of that is where we're looking at, you know, what are you doing to evaluate your program? How are you collecting feedback and other data to justify the program? Again, this is all, we go into a bunch of bullets in the NOFA itself. So feel free to go through that and review it further. We need to have, like, you know, how does this match your proposed scope, the population? You know, how are you going to reach your goals? When you say you're going to serve, you know, say it's 100 individuals a year, is that reasonable? Does it match the other information you've provided? Do you have something to back it up that you can say, yes, based on our past experience, based on research, based on data that we've pulled for this particular part of the region, we see that there's this need and there's this population, and we have a wait list, or we have other contacts that we've already set up, and that we'll be able to proceed and get X number of clients that we say we're going to serve. Experience and past performance. Again, we want you to tell us about if you've been funded with federal, state, or city funds in the past. We're going to look if you have past projects with us, as well as, you know, how have you done with your reports, timely submission of expenditures, payments, any other issues. So that's what will be covered under that, those 10 points. Leveraging contribution. So this one is pretty straightforward. We do need documentation to support your proposed leverage, but there's a breakdown of, you can get up to 15 points of based on how much leverage you're providing. Leverage is not required, but it is, you know, we are trying to encourage that so that it is, a program is not 100% funded by HOPWA, but there's a breakdown in the NOFA document itself of, you can get the full 15 points if you exceed 100% leveraging. Accessible location. So that is, we are looking for where your services are going to be located, particularly in relation to public transit. Is there a bus stop? Is there light rail? Is the proposed program going to provide transportation to clients to help them more easily access the services? And then finally, agency collaboration. So we're going to need proof of that collaboration, like letters or MOUs, to verify it. So it should be a document with the other agency's letterhead and it has a signature, but this is to tell us, who are you working with? If you say that you have other partners and they're going to help provide you clients, then we will need some kind of supporting documentation. You should have a letter from that agency and include that in your application so that we can verify it. And again, if you have more than one letter on the collaborative agency's letterhead and signature, you can get the full 5 points.
And I would say, I would just, and we'll probably put this in a letter of clarification, that those letters need to be within the last 12 months. They need to be active and current collaborative letters. So if you have something from 2 years ago or 5 years ago, that's not going to be sufficient.
Very good point. Thank you, Melanie.
Okay, Jared, Millie, did you have anything else before I move on to Stefan with complaints and appeals?
I don't think so. That's the quick overview of the threshold. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, we have a question in the chat, and I'm gonna just ask you, Lindsay, for clarification. You want us to wait till the Q&A on that part?
Yeah, let's wait. Yeah,
Okay.
if you don't mind. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and next we have Stefan Loston with complaints and appeals. Stefan?
How you doing? Thank y'all for the invite. Again, my name is Stefan Loston, and I'm a part of the complaints and appeals team. And I'll be happy to present exactly how you can reach out to us and what all goes inside of a complaint or an appeal. Okay, cool. So what are you able to file a complaint about? So basically anything in regards to HCD operations. That is very broad, but is on purpose like that. Types of complaints may be anything about process time, status updates, program requirements, or if you suspect any conflict of interest of anything like that. But really, I know we use the word complaint, but even if you have a general inquiry, you can always reach out to us and maybe we can connect you with the program area to get, that question resolved. So I don't want you to think it's just, one of those grumpy things. It's just, but that's just kind of how we label it as complaints. We typically respond to complaints within 15 business days. So in regards to appeal, basically, you can only file an appeal if you disagree with a program determination. And this may range from anything like denial of services or procedure errors that we may have done. You can file a complaint, an appeal for anything like that. Normally with appeals, we're going to reply back to you within 30 to 45 days of that appeal. So also please note that no complaints or inquiries can be accepted for during the NOFA no contact period. And in regards to appeals, appeals cannot be filed until a determination has been made. Okay, so some of the basis of filing a complaint and appeal. So who can file a complaint? Any member of the public or a program participant can file a complaint. Whenever we say program participant, we're talking about whether you're an applicant, a developer, contractor, agency, bidder, vendor, or subrecipient. Any one of those individuals or the general public can file a complaint. So who can file an appeal? Only program participants. And again, you have to have a determination to file this appeal, but you can only file an appeal if you are a program participant. Basic information needed to file a complaint or appeal is not limited to, but the more information, the better. But at minimum, we need first and last name, address, the project number, phone number, your preferred method of contact, and more importantly, your specific reason for filing a complaint or appeal. So just some more specifics about appeals. There are 3 levels of appeals. The first level is whenever the appeal is reviewed by the program area. So the program area makes a decision and you don't agree with it, you file an appeal. The program area is going to re-review everything that was taken, everything that was submitted, and they're going to basically do a re-evaluation or a reassessment using all the information that was given at the time of applying, and then they're going to make another assessment. Let's say you further believe that, some type of error was done and you really had deserved to be approved, then you can file a tier 2 appeal. That's when it will come to my team, and I'm also a member of the appeal review committee, and that's when it's an outside committee that looks at the facts, the guidelines, and the submitted documentation and make an assessment or a call on whether or not you were rightfully denied services. There is a third level, and that is when it get escalated to the state, but this is only for DR-17 funded programs. And I don't think that this is exactly what this is at this moment. So there will be no tier 3 at this time. So some other important timelines and ideas is to keep in mind that all appeals have to be in writing, and it has to be within 30 days of the actual determination. So say you got denied, on the 15th, you have until the next 15th or so to file that tier 1 appeal or tier 2 appeal. You have 30 days. We have 1 day to provide you an acknowledgement of receipt of that appeal. Every appellant have within 5 days to submit any supporting documentations that they feel can help justify the appeal. And again, we will be rendering a determination anywhere between 30 to 45 days or less. Lastly, some additional filing information, how you can get that information to us. You can call our hotline. That's the number right there. Hit option 2. You can send us an email. I'm actually over, or I'm partially over the email box. So if you send us an email of any type, again, complaints, concerns, or an appeal after determination, I can get that over to the program area, or find you some direction, or you could come in person. We on the 9th floor at 2100 Travis Street. And that's also some the websites and some flyers for some additional information. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Stefan. Okay, I'm going to move on to accessing the NOFA. If you have not already done this, I'm going to show you how to get to the NOFA. So the first thing you do is you visit this web address at the top of the screen, houstontx.gov/housing/funding.html #NOFA. So on that page, when you click on this button right here, notice of funding availability, NOFA, your featured NOFAs will come up. Right now, we only have this NOFA, the HOPWA NOFA, so there should be no confusion. And from this screen right here, you should be able to view the NOFA, as well as view the documents that will be required to be submitted with the NOFA, as well as the document submission portal. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if I can pull that website over into that screen so you can actually see this in action. Okay, all right. So when I click on View NOFA, it pulls up a PDF of the NOFA, where you can see everything that we've been discussing today. You should download this and read everything in the NOFA in order to have the best application you possibly can. As Jared mentioned, there are threshold criteria T1 through T10, and these criteria must be met in order for your application to be forwarded to the evaluation committee. So kind of think of it as our first line of evaluation or review rather. So you're not really being evaluated, you're being reviewed to see if you meet these basic requirements. So each of these has a document that must be submitted to show like, hey, yes, I meet T1 because I'm submitting to you my sam.gov that shows that it's active and current. And so on and so forth through there. If you read these and you have any questions about what to submit or if you qualify, that is the time to submit your question. That HCD_NOFA@HoustonTX.gov email. I am usually the person who mans that email, and we will get a response to you quickly. Also, you'll see the scoring criteria that Jared went over, and this breaks it down much further and shows you exactly what we're looking for each scoring criteria. Definitely read through these and make sure you're addressing everything inside that scoring criteria. What I also wanted to show you is that we have an application checklist that helps you know what you need to submit with your application. So in the NOFA, if you click on Exhibit 1, I don't think it's letting you do it in this format, but I can just scroll down and show you. So here, Exhibit 1 has the HOPWA NOFA application checklist, and each it's numbered, all the things that you should be submitting. And then also, when it gets to number 3, this application content and project narrative, this is what I would think of as the kind of meat of your application. So you would have, a PDF document for introduction. And I would also like you to notice that there are page limitations. So in this checklist for each section, it has the page limits. If there's not a page limit listed, then there's no page limit. So you would have 3A, introduction, 3B, scope of services, 3C, your org chart, 3D, organizational management, 3E, activity need justification, 3F, cost reasonableness, 3G, your budget, 3H, work plan, 3I, data-driven evaluation, 3J, experience and past performance, 3K, leveraging contribution, 3L, accessible location, 3M, agency collaboration, and then 3N, letters of support. So these sections don't necessarily correlate directly to the scoring criteria, but the scoring criteria that we're going to be looking at will be encompassed in all this kind of one complete package. And some of them is pretty direct, right? Experience of past performance narrative, like that's where we're pulling most of the scoring for that particular criteria from. But let's say agency collaboration. Well, we're going to look at that narrative, but we're also going to look at the 3N down here, letters of support. So there's 2 things you should be kind of looking at is 1, making sure that you have everything on this checklist, but then also making sure that everything that you submit as your package addresses the scoring criteria that we listed at the top of the NOFA. And then we also have, all the forms that are required, and any type of information like that, as well as the threshold requirement documentation is at the bottom of the list. So this application checklist is kind of like your guide to applying. So that's what I would use to make sure that you get everything you are required to have. The other thing you can see here is any documents that you may need. When you click on view documents, the accounting system certification, agreement and certifications form, conflict of interest. And then this is a very important, this budget, HOPWA budget template, that is required that you use this template. So please download it from here and use that to complete your budget. Go back. I'm sorry, go ahead.
While you had that up, did you want to show that? I know that it showed 4 listed, but there was actually, if you hit next, there's more items related. In
Oh,
the
yes.
document.
Yes, there's a few more forms, and I'm seeing one that I know for a fact that you guys don't need to complete, which is the indemnity agreement. So I'll have our web developer remove that one. But yeah, everything you need should be here. If it's not, send an email to hcd_NOFA@houstontx.gov. I want to make sure I got everything about accessing NOFA before I go to that document submission portal. Yeah, okay. So from the screen that I just showed you, you should be able to access the submission portal. So when you're ready to submit, right here, this bottom button, HCD submission portal. All right, and I want to just like go through this. I know it's kind of, taking through step by step, but I see a lot of issues with this. So I just want to walk you through how to do this. This first question, you have to submit yes in order for the whole system to populate and work. So our documents for a NOFA submission, yes. The second thing that is very important is that you put the correct solicitation number. So in this case, it's N021425. And you'll know that you did it correctly because this NOFA title will populate and say 2025 Public Services HOPWA NOFA. If it doesn't say that, then you've not done it correctly. And I'm being thorough about this because if you don't put that solicitation number in there correctly, then I don't get notified that you even submitted an application. I may never even see your application, which has happened before. Someone put it in incorrectly. I never knew that they even submitted an application. So it's important that you get this part right because it notifies me, hey, there's someone who has submitted an application in the portal. And then that notifies me to go and review it. Also, which populates is all the required documents that I just showed you in the application checklist. So everything in the checklist is listed here in the portal. So if you have one big PDF, you're going to have to break it into individual documents to submit here. So it kind of makes sense to do it as individual documents, PDFs on your end as well. Because this is the way that we organize it for our evaluators. So it's designed in that way to assist in the evaluation process. And then at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the threshold requirements as well, and those can be uploaded there. Some things I want to say about the portal. One is that it does time out. So you cannot leave this portal open and start working on something else, or get up and leave and go to a meeting and come back. It'll have timed out. And the thing about it timing out is it won't have saved your data. So you may have gotten halfway through this application and uploaded, 20 documents, and now you've lost that. And I can't see it on my end either. So it doesn't save and let you come back. So what I suggest doing is getting all your information ready on your computer, logging into the portal, and then in one fell swoop, uploading all the information required, and then making sure that you hit submit. You will get an email confirmation. It doesn't come immediately. I think it takes maybe 10 to 15 minutes for you to get the email confirmation sometimes. But I do not mind if you send me an email at the HCD_NOFA email and ask me if you've received it. I can easily go in and check to see if it is. Also, if you submit an application and you're like, oops, I forgot something, or oops, I don't think I did that correctly, you can also contact me as long as it's before the due date. You can contact me and say, hey, can you scrap that first application? I need to resubmit. That's okay too. Um, we understand that people, make mistakes. So that's the portal. So a couple of tips. One, give yourself enough time to use the portal. Do not wait until the last minute. Also, I've noticed there's a little bit of a lag on the submission. So it's due at 5 p.m. If you submit right at 5 p.m., we will not see it stamped on our end until around sometimes like 5:10. So please make sure you include enough time. I wouldn't, if it were me, I would not submit any later than 4:30. That would give you enough time. Preferably earlier than that, just in case you have any mishaps. Make sure your documents are clearly labeled. Yes, there are fields, very clear fields in the portal about what you're going to submit there. I just find it's easier for the evaluators and for myself if your documents are titled, 3A introduction, 3B organizational management, or whatever it is. It just makes it a little easier to read for the evaluators. Address all the scoring items before you submit your application. Go through the scoring items and make sure that you've addressed everything in the scoring. Provide documentation for all the threshold items, and being clear and concise as possible. Adhere to page limitations. One other thing that I don't have here that I think I should have put is also to review the letters of clarification. And let me pull up the page again. So if you ask a question, what we do is we publish it in a letter of clarification. This particular NOFA doesn't have any letter of clarifications yet because we just issued it, but I'll show you on a previous one. If you click at the bottom of the screen next to the solicitation ID, if you click view, you can see the letter of clarifications there. Before you submit your application, please go to the website and see if there's any letter of clarifications, as they may provide additional information that would help your application. All communication must be sent in writing to HCD_NOFA@HoustonTX.gov. No direct contact with the program area. So if you already have some funding with HCD and you're comfortable with your relationship manager and that's who you feel comfortable asking a question to, I would ask that you not do that. Instead, send it to the HCD_NOFA email address. And if I don't know the answer, I will reach out to Melody and Jared and their team to get the information to you. So I'm like the go-between. What happened?
And Lindsay, I will add for the program side, all our, for agencies that currently have agreements with us, this doesn't mean you can't talk to us about those agreements, active projects. It's just related to the NOFA. So if you do start asking any questions, either to us or your relationship manager, they're just going to direct you to Lindsay and, submit your question via that email. So please don't send your questions to us, send it directly to the HCD NOFA team.
Yeah, yes. And I'll just say that too when we get to non-contact, that it's not like you can't talk to the program area at all. It's just about things related to this NOFA. Sorry, my computer froze up for a second. 3 business days to correct any deficiencies. I wouldn't say any deficiencies. What we mean there is any non-material deficiencies. So that means something that wouldn't impact your score. We do allow you to cure the threshold requirements. But if you forgot a section like the experience of past performance section, we're not going to allow you to submit that because it would impact your score. So these are non-material items, forms, your threshold requirements, we allow you to cure those, and any kind of other non-material items. The no contact period actually began when the NOFA was published on the 14th. No persons, either the applicant or anyone on the applicant's behalf, to attempt to influence the outcome of the award. So essentially, that is what what all of this is kind of saying, is that if there's any evidence that you've tried to influence the outcome, either by contacting someone from the program area, contacting your council member, which we do see happen, then you could be disqualified. I will add this one statement too. Nothing in this paragraph shall prevent an applicant from making public statements. The city council convened for a regularly scheduled session after the official selection has been made and placed in the city council agenda for action. Okay. I know we have some. Do you mind muting, please? All right, let's get to our Q&A question. Do
you want me to start?
Yeah, let's start with the ones in the chat.
All right, so on the chat piece, believe Shelby asked, did you say that a letter from the board will be something one can provide to indicate evidence of a 3 months of capital support? So your board will need to submit a letter of certification that your agency has a 3-month cash flow. But behind that letter, you will need to provide documentation. So that could be a line of credit, it could be your bank statements. It just depends on your organization and how big your organization is. And so, so I do have that answer written for you, Lindsay. So we'll also put that in a letter of clarification. May an agency have more than one person who can log into the portal? You want to take that, Lindsay?
Sure. Yes. There's no login for the portal, so anyone can log in, but you can't go back to an application. So the person who starts uploading should be the person who does the whole thing.
Right. And then a question was asked if there was a template for the title page, and the template I would say to use would be in the NOFA, the Exhibit 1, which is the checklist. Is that correct? I believe that's
There's
correct.
also, hold on one second. I think there's a title. Yeah, if you go to View Documents, there's a form for a title page. Can you guys see that? Yeah.
Yep. Perfect. Is this the same as TRG funding? I don't know what TRG funding, this is HOPWA funding, this is Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. And this is through the Housing and Urban Development. So this is federal HUD funds.
Was that the
Okay,
last
so
one?
Is there another question in the chat? I don't think so.
Did anyone else have a question that they wanted to ask? You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can raise your hand.
All right.
Yeah, just so I'm gonna go ahead and just, I know we said it elsewhere, but I'll just put the email.
Joe Fuentes has his hand raised.
I'm
Yes,
sorry.
Joe.
It's just a question of the RFP. I want to be sure I understand it correctly. So one of the questions about shared responsibility, in that phrase, are you referring to positions that are split, or, for example, a housing case manager also does navigation? I wasn't quite sure what y'all are referencing in that question.
Can you read the sentence that you're referring to?
I don't have it in front of me, I apologize, but it has to do with either shared responsibilities, any position has to do with shared responsibilities. And then it talks about any of those that are vacant.
I think that's an organizational management. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up.
I believe so.
Yeah, that's under, let's see, I think it's 3D on page 26. So identify, so under organizational management, provide an organizational management narrative and corresponding organization chart that illustrates or describes, and then that last one identifies any staff positions of shared responsibility or that are vacant. So yes, on that org chart, we would want you to show us as part of that documentation. So shared responsibility, are they solely working on this program, or if they're part of another program, we would need to see, like, if you're going to split their time, say 50% of their time is you're thinking would be part of the HOPWA or TBRA, whatever it is, activity. And then if they're split with another activity, we would need to be able to see that. Or if they're, half their time or whatever it's going to be for a non-HOPWA related project, we would just need to be able to see that, okay, they're not 100% on this.
Okay, so which should match up to the budget, correct?
Yes, that would match up with the FTEs that you would put in the budget template. And then also if you have any positions that are vacant. And one of the reasons we want to know that if you're proposing a project and you have vacant positions, because there is a lag often in hiring. So if you don't have current staff that you're going to put on the project, if you were selected, that gives us a heads up that potentially you would need some time to staff up. That you would need to hire, or you don't have someone that meets those requirements right now. It's just to let us know, like, who do you have right now, what would you need, and so can we anticipate that maybe out of 12 months you're going to need 2 or 3 months potentially to let staff up.
Okay, all right, that answers my question. Thank y'all.
You're welcome.
Glenda, you have a question?
Yes, I was looking at all of the forms or all of the information in the special conditions section. And there's several that talk about acknowledgements and certifications or tests. Do we have to include additional forms or additional certifications there? Or is all of that information somehow included in the forms that we're required to submit?
Hi, Glenda, is there something
Okay.
specific you were looking
Okay.
at in special conditions?
Well, I was looking at, like, on page 13, where it talks about the anti-boycott of energy companies, and then there is a pay or play certification. Do we
Yeah,
have to?
so those are all going to be conditions of your contract.
Okay,
So your current contract, you can go look at that and you can see all that as part of your exhibits of your contract. We're letting you know that when you agree to take on these funds as a subrecipient of the city of Houston, you will also have to be in compliance
Okay.
with those state laws.
okay, great, great. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? I love the questions. Well, as always, in case people are shy, please definitely send an email to Lindsay if you want to put up that screen, Lindsay, where they can submit the questions. There is a due date in which questions are due. So please get those in if you have that beautiful picture. You get to see some of our outside of work pictures.
I did put that email in the chat. Where you send the email. I don't know. There it is right there. ACC
There you
underscore
go.
NOFA, ACC.
And then I was just gonna say, like, as a reminder, we talked about this earlier on, but as a reminder, the question submittal deadline is March 3rd, 2025. And the application deadline is March 17th. Bradley asked earlier, can we submit prior to March 17th? The answer is yes.
Bradley, I would
cannot submit
also say
after.
one other thing is you would want to wait until after that question deadline, because if someone asks a question and the response is posted in the letter of clarification, that could impact your application. So I would wait until after then so that you could see the responses and the letter of clarification.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate everyone joining us today.
So as always, thank you for attending. We are excited with this round of NOFA, and we are excited to move forward and see what applications we get in. So I wish everyone well, and please just remember, submit your questions, and we will be talking soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.